Do I get the yoink? And destroyed! This is my Trap DH build guide. It's called the Unicorn Hunter. So let's give a little bit of a background. Recently, the Balance Dev CMC was asked about some off meta classes, and he actually mentioned that Dragonhunter was the highest win ratio class in ranked. But of course we know that statistics can be interpreted in different ways, and it turns out that actually in reality Dragonhunter is not really that good past a certain rating. So it has sort of stemmed a search for a Dragonhunter build that is actually viable at a certain rating to be good at top tier. But of course, as unicorns don't exist, just like dragons, they are mythical beasts. They don't exist, so the hunt for the perfect unicorn Dragonhunter build is really not there. However, I do feel like this build is really fun, and it's been pretty effective for me. So I wanted to just share. This is a kind of like a roamer build. It can duel a little bit. It has pretty good sustain in 1v1s, and it has insane kill potential with the trap combos. So yeah, let's go over the build. So I go with Marauder and Trapper rune. Trapper rune with 5 traps kind of just makes sense. The swiftness or the super speed that you get from the rune of the Trapper allows you to be a little bit more quick. There's a lot of skills where, like Whirling Wrath, for example, you actually move slower while using this than normal, and it's hard for you to actually stay on top of someone. So getting super speed from like an instant cast trap while casting Whirling Wrath allows you to kind of stick to your target. And also Dragonhunter in general just has a lot of cripple in it, so it's just really nice to be able to stick to your target. But also in the situation where you're kiting and need to disengage, Trapper runes are invaluable because stealth gives you a detarget. Even if you immediately reveal, the detarget kind of slows them down. They have to retarget you and stuff. And super speed is just really fast, right? So it lets you create a gap between you and the enemy. And yeah, it's just really good. If you don't really like that though, you could go with Lynx rune just to have the speed or the swiftness passive all the time. However, I don't feel that that's that necessary because you're using traps quite often, so you do have the super speed very often to give you that speed. It will feel very slow when you don't use it though, because you don't have any swiftness. But yeah, basically that's those. I take battle and cleansing on both weapon sets. I'll go into that in a little bit, but yeah, basically cleansing is necessary to keep you alive. There's a lot of condition cleanse in this build, but it's kind of like slow condition cleanse, so you need the cleansing sigils to add on to that. And as for the weapons, I take sword, shield, and greatsword. So this is a heavy melee build for Dragonhunter, no longbow, and I'll kind of show you why in a little bit why that is. So I take Zeal, Valor, Dragonhunter. In Zeal, I take Wrathful Spirit, which gives you Retail and Fury whenever your Aegis ends. It doesn't need to break, it can just wear out. And Zealous Blade, this is the Greatsword trait. It's just really good for Greatsword builds, and it's pretty convenient. You don't really need the Vuln from Fury, but yeah, Zealous Blade is just really good. You have Mystic Rebuke, which is whenever an Aegis you applied blocks an attack, it unleashes a Mystic Rebuke, which is basically a damage AoE around the target. So you need to be in melee range for this to go off on the target because it's 240 radius. So if you're like at range and people break your block, it's not going to hit the people next to you because you're not near them, you're at range. So that's why I have double melee in this set. And another thing about Mystic Rebuke is if you give Aegis to your allies, it will also do damage with their Aegis. So like if you go into a team fight and use Shield of Judgment and you hit your whole team and your whole team is in melee, they will all do an AoE Mystic Rebuke. So that can do quite a bit of damage in team fights and cause quite a burst. So yeah, that's really good. Also, in Valor, you have a lot of Aegis traits. So there's a lot of synergy with the Aegis trait here and Mystic Rebuke with Valor. So whenever you're struck below 50%, you get an Aegis. I take Lesser Smite Condition, which gives you more Condi Cleanse when you use a heal. Just nice, even though you're not using the meditation trait. And then whenever you block an attack with Aegis, you will gain 1 second of protection. I take the Shield trait, which gives you 240 toughness when you're in shield, and it gives you recharge on your shield skills. However, you can take Communal Defenses, which is whenever you block an attack, it grants Aegis to nearby allies. This is okay because it's a 15-second cooldown, so it's not really happening that often, to be honest. But yeah, your Aegis will give your allies Mystic Rebuke, and that's pretty useful, right? But for the most part, the long cooldown I don't really like, and this works. It's always good because it gives you toughness. Then, Might of the Protector gives you 2 stacks of Might for 6 seconds whenever you block an attack, not just on Aegis. It's on all blocks. And finally, we have Altruistic Healing. This is where the big guns happen. So, whenever I apply a boon to an ally, it heals for 69 health. So, if I apply Protection and Aegis to myself, that's 2 boons. I will gain 138, is it, health? So, yeah, that's pretty good. But what if, when I apply Aegis, I also block? Because, you know, I have Aegis, I'll block, so I'll apply 2 Might to myself when I block, and that also procs 2 of Altruistic Healing. So each stack of Might will give you a heal per stack, so that's another 138 healing from 1 block. Also, you gain protection whenever you block with Aegis. So that's what, Aegis, 2 Might, protection, and then also you have Wrathful Spirit. Whenever your Aegis is broken, you gain 2 more boons. So what is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boons, all from 1 Aegis. So I'm not really good at math, but 6 times 69, that's, you know, in the like 300s, right? So 1 Aegis gives you quite a bit of healing, and that allows you not to go into Honor, because Honor gives you about the same healing on Aegis, right? But you go into Valor instead, and you get a lot of Might, which gives you aggressive potential with the, you know, the blocks in the Aegis. So that's really good. And yeah, just giving yourself boons in a lot of places gives you sustain. So like all of your traps, they'll give you a boon. Your symbols, they give you boons on pulse. So yeah, there's quite a bit of sustain on this build because of Altruistic Healing. And also I take Sigils of Battle because of Altruistic Healing. So you gain Might and sustain whenever you swap weapons. So that's really good. It's 4 stacks of Might, so 4 times 69, which is, yeah, it's a lot of healing over time. So it allows you to sustain and play this very aggressive build without just kind of like flopping over and dying. So it's really nice. What else is there on this build? Your symbols, yeah, they have a little bit more damage on them, but that's not too important. In Dragonhunter, so I have Piercing Light. This just is a no-brainer, right? You're taking 5 traps, so you want your cooldown on your traps lowered. Defender's Dogma is really good in other builds because you want the Virtue passive to come up more with like burn builds, but this is just nice for like lowering the cooldown of your Spear of Justice. So every time you block, you will reduce the cooldown by 1 second, and you're blocking quite a bit because you have tons of Aegis. So yeah, it allows you to use your F1 and to gain a lot of combos off of it. So that's really good. Now, Shards of Faith or Hunter's Determination, this has been nerfed, but what people don't know is that there's actually 2 effects to this. So the first effect of Hunter's Determination is to gain Aegis, and then the second effect is cast Shards of Faith when you are CC'd. So there's an ICD on the Shards of Faith, but there's no ICD on the Aegis, as you can see, because the tooltip of the Aegis is on the Hunter's Determination, which there's no ICD. So whenever you're disabled, you gain Aegis. And as we saw before, Aegis is 6 boons. So that's 300, or what was it? I don't remember. It's a lot of healing every time you get CC'd, right? Because you get Aegis. And, you got all these like Retal, which helps you to, do a lot of damage, and Fury as well does a lot of damage. So just getting CC'd is actually going to help you sometimes, because it'll give you healing and it'll give you like tons of might and boons. It's just really good. So this trait, even though it's been nerfed, the Aegis on disable is insane. And Shards of Faith, even on a 4-minute cooldown, is just really good still. Like the effect to happen, because it gives you more Aegis, right? It puts the Aegis fragments everywhere, and you can pick those up. And yeah, that's just really good. So one thing that's pretty insane about Hunter's Determination is that if you get feared, you'll get some Aegis, right? And then the Aegis that you get, if it's broken and someone hits you, right, it'll clear a Condi. So in a way, you're kind of like semi-immune to fear, because as soon as you get hit with the fear, you'll get Aegis, and then they break the Aegis, and that Condi cleanses the fear. Pure Sight, this isn't really that good because you're going to be in melee range most of the time. So you just get a 5% damage increase. And then Hunter's Fortification. This just tops it all off. So you remove conditions whenever you block attacks. So, right, you have tons of blocks, tons of Condi cleanse, but it's a little bit slow, as I said. So it takes time for those blocks to add up. And yeah, so you got to get your Condi cleanse from, Lesser Smite Condition, the Cleansing Sigil, and you get 2 off of your Wings of Resolve. You're not Virtues, so you don't get the 5 Condi cleanse. But yeah, so that's pretty much the traits there. It has a lot of synergy with the Aegis, so you want to be going and blocking in melee range to get your damage off, and just getting tons of sustain and being aggressive with it. So yeah, the utilities obviously are all traps. Dragon's Maw is also very interesting because it's, when it procs or it triggers, you get 10 might. So that's 10 procs of altruistic healing. So that's quite, it's like 600 healing there when you use Dragon's Maw. So it's really good, or like 700 actually, because 69. But yeah, a lot of these traps give you quite a bit of value. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of combos that you can do with the traps in a bit. But first, let's go over the weapons. So Greatsword is really good because you have mobility on it. So Leap of Faith allows you to detarget and kind of like kite with the weapon. It just does a lot of damage too. It's just a really good skill, and it blinds. So a lot of times what you'll do is you'll leap in and you'll do your trap and then Greatsword 2, and that super speed allows you to stick to your target with the cripple and the super speed and land your Whirling Wrath. There's other situations where like you'll have your Test of Faith down and you can use Binding Blade. And what Binding Blade does is you hit the target with it, and then it does a pulsing damage, but then you can pull them. And you can pull people through your Test of Faith, because whenever you pull someone through Test of Faith, it does 1,700 base damage. So yeah, you have a lot of pulls and pushes with this build. So like I put down the trap, I can use my tether to pull, and then I can knock them back in with my Shield of Absorption on the 5. I didn't pull them through there, but It's because they have weird pathing on the golems. But yeah, there's a lot of combos you can do with pushes and pulls through your Test of Faith to do a lot of damage. And also, Dragon's Maw will trap enemies, so you can often land quite a bit of your Greatsword burst. So like, say I will, land my pull on someone, and then I'll pull them into my Dragon's Maw, and then I can put symbols on top of them in the Dragon's Maw while they can't escape, and learn, do Whirling Wrath on top of it as well. And it just allows you so much kill potential with Dragon's Maw, so it's really good. And obviously, Procession of Blades is really nice. What you can do with that is, say you're pulling people in and out of your Test of Faith, and this whole time you're using all these combos on them, they're eating Procession of Blades. So what you can do is, like, say the enemy is near a wall, so you put Procession of Blades near the wall, and you pull them into it, and then you push them into it with the Shield of Absorption, and you kind of like stun them in place while they're in the trap. So there's a lot of combos, as I said. Fragments of Faith, that's just like the passive. This is really good because it gives you more Aegis. So when you use it, it puts all these like shards everywhere, and you want to just pick them up and fight people as you're picking them up, and that'll give you a lot of counter pressure and sustain. So yeah, that's pretty much all the utilities. And the virtues don't really do much because they're not virtues. But yeah, Shield of Courage, you have to be a little bit more preemptive with it because you don't have a stun break on it. So you just, if you know someone's about to do big damage to you, you just precast it, and then you keep your back away from them so they can't hit you from behind. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So the build is actually kind of easy to focus sometimes because you don't have many stun breaks, right? So you have the passive stun break, and then you have the Fragments of Faith, which is, a 48-second cooldown, but this is a 4-minute cooldown. So if you get CC'd a lot, you're kind of relying on the Hunter's Determination Aegis to save you. So in like team fight situations where you're getting focused by a lot of people, that one Aegis isn't going to do too much, but you will have a lot of traps to, disengage with. So that's pretty nice. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, if you like these kind of videos, like the video with a thumbs up, and obviously subscribe if you want more of them. Also leave a comment down below if you think you found your unicorn dragon hunter build and share.